Do you remember when you were a kid and your grandmother would always say, you have nothing nice to say, just don't say anything at all? I mean, that is next level grandmother great advice right there. But since today I'm talking about the DJI Action 2, I should probably take my grandmother's advice. But unfortunately, I have a lot to say on this little camera. Some nice and some not so nice. Hey, thanks for joining me. If you're new to the channel, my name's Dave and I appreciate you taking the time to watch my video. Today, of course, we're talking about the Action 2, this tiny little action camera. Now, I picked this up maybe a month ago. It's been out for probably 2 to 3 months. Most of us were pretty excited to find out that a new camera was coming out from DJI and it was going to be an action camera, so we were pretty excited. I should say that I also have the original Osmo Action. I picked this one a little bit late to the game. I used to be a GoPro guy for the longest time, and actually I still love the GoPros. But when this Osmo Action came out, I was pretty excited. I love the dual screen and a couple of the other features that this camera had at the time that GoPro did not have. Plus, I'm a big DJI fan. I have plenty of their products, so it was one of those things where, you know what, it just works with me and I want to give it a try. And truthfully, I love this thing. This has worked perfectly. It's one of those cameras that it's like a tank. Well, I have a big cage on it, so it makes it a tank, but it's one of those cameras that you can just take out and shoot and know you're gonna get the quality shots that you want, and you don't have to worry about all the settings and all the specifics. Everything's just gonna work for you once you set up the camera. I think we can all agree that it was time to upgrade the Osmo Action and to come out with a new device. Now, the internet was wild with how this camera was going to look and the specs and all that stuff. And there was some really crazy images coming out about all these modules and how it was going to look and put together and the different specs of it. To be completely honest, I don't really buy those things until they come out. Then I understand, or until the company actually starts releasing the facts and the looks and the screenshots, those kinds of things. That's when I'm in and I'll take a look and I'll really pay attention. But a lot of the speculation online, I didn't really pay attention to, but a lot of it was correct. And the design was the module design, which kind of blew me away. I was not expecting that. Maybe some people were, because the Insta360 camera has a very similar module design. You can build it the way you want, great. And that was, I think, kind of the plan here going with DJI when they came out with the Action 2. I think we can also agree that DJI was really thinking outside the box when it came to the Action 2. It was something that I've never seen before. For me in the new camera, I wanted a larger sensor to give me a little bit better video quality, and I also wanted a better field of view. And ideally, I would like this thing to be a little bit more waterproof. And for the most part, I got most of the things that I personally wanted in the new camera. A larger sensor, a better field of view, it's waterproof, that's great. The actual camera itself, it's small, it's lightweight, it gives us a bunch of new features, you can connect it in different ways and get very creative in your shooting modes, all of that stuff is great. But for me, I do a lot of shooting in the great outdoors, and I just need a camera that's simple and it's gonna work, especially when I can't use my higher end cameras for various reasons. It's raining, I'm afraid I'm gonna bust it on a rock or in the canoe or something like that. I just need a camera that works. And for me, the original Osmo Action was that camera. So I was looking for a camera to replace my original Osmo Action. And at first, I did really enjoy using this camera. Matter of fact, I still enjoy it. It's kind of a unique camera. Let's face it, DJI doesn't make a bad product. Sometimes they swing for the fences and miss, and maybe they've done that here. But it's still an enjoyable product to use and it gives you a great shot and you get really creative with such a little camera. I love that. However, it did overheat on me. Now, I guess if you're using a various shooting settings, it won't overheat on you. And to be honest, for the most part, it hasn't overheated, but once or twice it has overheated on me. Now, when I'm shooting in the outdoors in the summertime, which I haven't had a chance to do yet, I'm kind of nervous with the sun and the heat that this camera is going to overheat and I'm not going to be able to use it when I need to use it. When I'm in a canoe or a kayak or even backpacking or anything like that where I want some kind of shot near the water, I need a camera that I can just set up and go and it's going to work. I don't have to worry that it's going to shut off after a couple minutes, whether I'm doing a time lapse. I just want that camera to work. So while I'm not overly concerned about the overheating, it did happen to me and I was kind of surprised. I don't have a lot of cameras that overheat. I've been fortunate that way. The technology has gotten a lot better. Now I get it, it's a small camera, you're trying to do a lot of things. There's no fan, there's no vents really on this thing. You want it waterproof, you can't have a vent, so I get it. There are issues in trying to keep this camera cool, but if it's gonna overheat, for me, especially when I'm out in the outdoors in the summer, that's gonna be a major problem. The other big thing for me, and maybe it's even bigger than the overheating, is the modules. Some people absolutely love this idea. You can build this camera up to the way you want it to, and that's great. Some people love that, some people love Lego, and I used to love Lego. But for me, no, I just want a simple camera. I'm worried when I stick the camera together with the screen and the battery that there's gonna be an issue. If I have the original Osmo Action, it's one piece, I'm ready to go. I have a little cage on it, I'm pretty secure it's gonna work. I don't have to worry about pieces falling off on a module. Now, it's great that a module, you can build it the way you want, but for me, I just want something simple. So the module idea for me, it wasn't a great thing. Some people love it, but for me, not so much. Another thing I need is the camera to be waterproof. Now, don't get me wrong, a lot of people criticize the original Osmo Action and say it really wasn't waterproof. But for me, I haven't had an issue with it. I really don't worry about when I go near the water. I've taken it underwater, I've had no problems. I make sure the batteries are in properly and that seal is working properly. I haven't had any issues, knock on wood. But this new camera, the Action 2, the little camera itself, sure, it's waterproof and that's great. But when you put a module to it, now you need an exterior case to take it in the water to make sure it's waterproof. Again, it's making it more complicated and I'm looking to keep it simple. The Action 2 also has internal memory, it's 32 gigs. Now after the internal software and the operating systems, you're probably looking at 22 gigs. So 22 gigs seems like a lot, but when you're outdoors or if you're shooting for a long time, you really are gonna need a lot more space than that. And it does not have an SD card to add to it. Sure, when I have the screen attached to it with the battery and everything, and you can put the micro SD card, great. I love that idea. But again, it's an extra thing I have to attach to make it work. And if I want to make it work underwater, I got to put the micro SD card, I got to take the case, the water, all that kind of stuff. Again, I just want it to be simple. The original Osmo Action came with replaceable batteries. Matter of fact, the kit that I got came with 3 extra batteries and I needed those. There are a couple of shoots that I went through all my batteries. Sure, you can charge them when you're out. For me, I'm out camping at nighttime, I can charge them, but there are times where I just want to pop in a new battery and go. Another thing I don't really like is the fact that there's no lens cover for the lens on the Action 2. The Osmo Action had one that you can screw on and off and you can actually replace your ND filters that way. And that was great. I thought it was a great idea. Knock on wood, I've never had to replace that little lens cover. But if I did, it's not that big a deal. It's not that expensive. You just buy a new one and then you screw it on, you're good to go. With the Action 2, there's nothing right now. Sure, there's gonna be some companies coming out with some protective screens and that's great. But right now, if it busts, you gotta ship it back to the store, to DJI to replace the screen. Now for me, that's a big one because like I said, I'm out in the woods on the canoe and I'm not very gentle and I'm pretty clumsy. So there's a good chance I'm gonna bang this thing around. And the fact that it doesn't even have a cover for that lens, that makes me really, really nervous. So I realize I've been pretty negative in this video so far. For the most part, I'm a pretty positive guy. I actually really enjoy DJI products. I have the Mini 2, I have the Pocket 2, which I love. I have the Ronin. What else do I have? I have the Osmo Mobile. I think I have 5 or 6 products. The Osmo Action, I have 5 or 6 products from DJI and I absolutely love them. Sure, they can be improved on, but for the most part, I think they're pretty darn good. I mean, as far as drones, they make excellent drones. And the Pocket 2, that's one of my favorite cameras of all time. So I do find it tough not to love the Action 2. I mean, it has a lot of great features. The fact that it shoots 4K 120 frames, that's awesome. A better field of view, a larger sensor, a better rock steady with a horizon lock. That's great. That's all great new technology, and I love the fact that they put it in this small little camera like this. And it also has much better microphones on the Action 2, much better than the Osmo Action. So I will give DJI a mulligan on this camera. They swung for the fence, which I think is great. Unfortunately, it was a foul ball and hit themselves in the groin. We've all done that. So they tried to make something cool with new tech, and I love the idea of companies trying that instead of just doing the same old thing and just upgrading their cameras for the sake of upgrading and selling more cameras. We all know how that works. So for me, at the end of the day, I just really wanted an upgrade on the Osmo Action. I wanted to keep the same form factor, just make it a little bit better. Now that's not to say I don't like the Action 2, I just think it could have been a little bit better. I will find a way to use it on my shoots, and I'm sure I will come to find that I actually love this camera and I can get some really creative shots, especially with the smaller form factor. I'm actually really excited to try that this summer. But at the end of the day, I really just wish they made a simpler Osmo Action 2. Anyways, I've talked way too much, as I always do. What about you guys? What do you think of the Action 2? If you've had it now for a while, are you happy with it? Did you return it? Tell me about it. Let me know in the comments. I love talking camera gear and filmmaking. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.